If you say Ozempic, it's like, oh, you cheated.
Here's the thing, I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've been practicing medicine for about 10 years. During COVID, I gained about 20 pounds. It was the first time in my life that I struggled with weight, and I thought there has to be a better, faster way. So I went on it, learned how revolutionary it was. So I realized there's a drug that can make us live longer. I need to get everyone on this drug. When I worked in the emergency room as a nurse practitioner, I saw how long people waited to get IV fluids. And I thought people shouldn't have to wait 5 hours for something that could help them feel better in 45 minutes. So I started my first business called IV Drips. I wanted to help people feel better faster. It's helped me realize this, that the reason why I went through any of my challenges in life, so I could figure out how to fix it and then help other people through it. Started a company to help people lose weight. So that's how Dose was born. We first were just like a GLP-1 focused company. I'm like publishing a book on it in the next 2 months, helping people understand how to use medications correctly. And now we're just shifting more to just overall helping people live longer and healthier and better. Then the next drug that's coming out is like going to be the most revolutionary drug we've ever seen. I think everyone above 50 should be on these medications.
Welcome to Inspired to Lead. We'd like to thank our friends at Roth & Co., innovators in accounting and business advisory, for making this conversation possible. We're coming to you live from New York. I'm your host, Talia Mashiach. Today, I'm joined by Bracha Banayan, family nurse practitioner and founder and CEO of IV Drips and Hello Dose. Bracha, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We had such a good time just like talking.
Yes.
Was it last week or the week before? And I think we could have gone on and on and on. And I was like, okay, let's save it and let's talk about it on the podcast. So super excited to have you. I want to just start out, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about both of the companies that you founded and run right now.
Sure. Bracha Banayan. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've been practicing medicine for about 10 years. 36 years old, live in New York City. When I worked in the emergency room as a nurse practitioner, I saw how long people waited to get IV fluids. And I thought there has to be a better, faster way. And I was like, let me create a better, faster way. I could send nurses directly to people's homes to give them fluids within the same hour. People shouldn't have to wait 5 hours for something that could help them feel better in 45 minutes. So I started my first business called IV Drips, where we give people infusions on demand in the comfort of their home. During COVID, I gained about 20 pounds. It was the first time in my life that I struggled with weight. I always thought that weight loss was about moving more and eating less. Couldn't lose it. Again, I thought there has to be a better, faster way. Started a company to help people lose weight. So that's how Hello Dose was born.
I love it. And you know what? I always talk about this, that when the entrepreneurs start companies, it's usually from an experience that they're having that they see an opportunity in the market that they want to solve. And so you are a perfect example of that. So I want to let's start with IV Drip because it's really interesting because I know even just from Chicago and even I was in Florida over Pesach and I was really, really sick. And I wound up there with someone local in Encore that was doing IVs and they came and gave me IV and I felt so much better. And that was like the first time I actually did that. But it's now become something really popular. But you were really one of the first to create a company like this. It was 9 years ago, you said, right? But it's not just in New York. Like you've created this company all over, like there's many, many, many cities that you're in. So tell us just a little bit about the company and the scale and how you even started and you went from, okay, I see we should just do this in the comfort of their home to now like it's a really, really large business.
Yeah. When I started, it was just me. I'm always a fan of speed over perfection. So I was the person answering the phone. Then I changed my voice when I was the nurse. I changed my voice when I was the nurse practitioner calling to customize their infusion.
Where you felt that you wanted them to think you had more people.
Yeah,
so
I was doing everything.
To be different people.
Yeah.
Did you have different names?
I don't know. Maybe I just didn't say my name. I don't remember that point. But I remember just I was everyone. And then slowly I was okay, someone else can answer the phone. And then I was let me hire a few nurses. So it was just step by step. Bootstrap my business with $20,000 in my bank account. And I just, every day, just as I learned how to do something, then found someone and taught them how to do it and then moved on to the next step.
How long did you wait when you were working in the hospital? Did you do it part-time first and then finally say, okay, I could leave my full-time job? Was it a slow transition?
So it was over 6 months. I live life with an extreme sense of urgency. Everyone who works with me knows this. I just have this strong sense of urgency with everything. Like everything has to happen immediately. It's not logical. And so from the time I thought of it to the time I actually started was about 6 months. The reason why it took me 6 months was only because I had a hard time finding a name and buying the domain name, which is crazy because ivydrips.com wasn't taken because it wasn't as popular then, and I just didn't think of it until I thought of it. I remember it was $2,000, and I'm like, should I spend $2,000 on a website? And I'm lucky that I did. I started actually on Yom Kippur. Like Yom Kippur was like my launch date because I was like, wait, 1 second. Why don't we pre-hydrate before we fast? Like, why is no one doing this? So I really launched in the Jewish world. This was like even before I knew about Google Ads. I didn't know anything. I was just going. And I was like, wait, I'm going to change the way people fast. I'm going to hydrate people before the fast. And that's kind of like how I launched. And I just put a few ads in the Jewish press or like a few Jewish newspapers and reached out to a few influencers, and bam, that was us.
So can we talk, because I know that now it's everyone knows what it is and it's more acceptable and people actually like it and they're willing to spend a few $100s to be able to have someone come to their house. But I bet 9 years ago you had to also educate people about this concept and for it to become a trendy thing. So what were some of the things that you did proactively, or was it just like organically that wound up becoming like a trendy type of thing to do?
Combination of a few things. One of the things that I realized as I was doing it, I wanted to help people feel better faster. So like the woman who I remember was like vomiting for a couple hours. So I wanted to help with recovery. The other thing I started thinking about was, why are people waiting to get sick to take care of themselves? Like, why are we not optimizing our health? Everyone talks about health optimization today, but 9 years ago, we didn't talk about it. I think I just was in the right place at the right time when I started thinking about health optimization. And so it kind of moved together of how the world was moving, and then COVID hit. And because COVID hit, plus the world was moving towards this concept of health prevention, people also started moving to doing things in their house. Combination of both accelerated that.
Interesting. It's because what's also really fascinating to me is usually people who go into medicine are not entrepreneurs. Like there are very few doctors and like, you know, people on the medical field that would think of themselves as a business mind.
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious for you as like you went to become a nurse practitioner. Like,
oh my God.
When you were growing up, were you like, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner? Did you want to be a doctor? Did you want to open a business? Like, how were you thinking about
That's
it?
So funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember I was thinking my dad is an entrepreneur, and I always thought that I was never going to be an entrepreneur like him because he always worked. So he worked so hard. And I was like, I'm going to work 9 to 5. But I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, so I wanted to open up my own practice. And I thought I'd have just like a healthcare practice, like a clinic from 9 to 5, like a doctor's office. But you know, I think like if you're an entrepreneur, you're like soul calls for it.
So you didn't realize what it really, you knew it was going to be, but you thought maybe I could be 9 to 5 entrepreneur.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't really know what I wanted.
Yeah.
But then when I saw a problem and I wanted to fix it, I don't think I thought, hey, I want to be a business owner.
Yeah.
It didn't work like that for me. It was more like, wait, there's a problem and I'm going to fix it. And I live life with urgency, and I want to always like have momentum. So I didn't have a thought like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I actually find that a very interesting thought. It's like, you just are an entrepreneur. You don't want that. You just are.
You find a problem that you want to solve, and then you become, you do it. So how did you go? So you did it yourself. You had different voices for different roles. And then what was your first hire? What role is it?
My first hire was probably, I can't remember if it was like a nurse or maybe someone answering the phone, but one of those where I had someone else answering the phone outside of me. But in between, it was like, I remember going from someone's house, then like someone called, and then I would like call them back, and it was crazy. Write everything down. And so those were like my first 2 hires. And then, you know, as we started getting more clients, I started hiring more nurses, and it just kind of was a very slow growth. And then COVID hit like a year or a year and a half into my business, and that was like acceleration because I didn't really have a choice because everyone needed IVs.
And how did you accelerate that quickly? Did you figure out like a model which was just more it's just more people, another nurse? Was there like a certain model that you could like roll out and as you went to different cities?
Well, during COVID, it was really just like an increased demand overnight. So it was more just like we just hired as many people as possible, as fast as possible, who were willing to take care of patients, like nurses who were willing to take, not all nurses were willing to take care of patients at that point. Not all nurses were feeling okay. Like a lot of them were sick. Like overnight had to change my prices, had to pay nurses more, like, but the demand was there.
So nurses prefer work with you than work in a hospital?
At that point, there were a lot of nurses that did, yeah.
Okay.
For multiple reasons. That's true.
And what was your first location outside of New York?
New Jersey.
And how did that come about?
So because we're concierge and not brick and mortar, it's easier for us to expand. And it's more just like a lot of our clients either have like a home in New York and then a home in Jersey, like Deal, New Jersey, or something like that. So it was kind of just like where our clients were. That's also why I moved to Florida, because our clients were traveling back and forth, and I didn't want to lose my clients to a competition. And so that was like my strategic reason of opening up in multiple, like those cities, so that we were able to service our clients in different areas. And then we moved to Louisiana. This is an interesting story where I had a client who was like, can you do a gig for me in Louisiana? And I was like, of course, yes. You can have nurses in Louisiana. How am I going to do that?
So you said yes, and then
of course I said yes. I said yes.
Figure it out.
We figured it out. Quickly called my competitor, and I was like, I have a booking in Louisiana. This is like what I need. Booked him, and then
he was willing to do that, no problem.
But yeah, it was like an event for him, right? And then I just like basically like did the event under my brand using his nurses, and then I had a month to prepare, and then I just through that process ended up finding like 2 more nurses who I end up like when I went into Louisiana to do the event, ended up becoming friends with and met more people and end up opening up there. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we shift over to your other company. And what's really interesting for me is you shared with me the story of how you talked a little bit about the challenge of weight. Then you moved on to Hello Dose. So I want to talk a little bit about this company because I really think it's super interesting. And it's actually a topic that I have really started to learn a lot more about for myself, which is, I think there's an assumption, there's always been an assumption that the complete basis of how much you weigh is based on how hard you work or, how much you eat or how much you exercise. And with no consideration for, like, especially for women, the hormones. And I think that there are so many women that struggled and still continue to struggle so much, that feeling of no matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, like, I can't lose the weight, and there's an assumption that people who look at them just think that they're lazy, and there's so many conversations with so many women about this. So I think this is such an important topic, not just to talk about how you started the company, and I want to hear about that, but also this topic in general, I think is really important for women.
Yeah. So what triggered it for me was because I couldn't lose the weight, and I said, wait a second. So I'm probably wrong then. It can't be that I need to work out more and eat less, because one, I was hungry and I was working out every single day. And I'm like, doesn't make sense. So there has to be a better, faster way. I was pretty much against Ozempic at that point, told all my clients, I will never prescribe it for you. But when I couldn't lose weight, I'm like, hey, let me just go on this and understand what people are saying. So I went on it, learned how revolutionary it was. Here's the thing about weight loss. Like, you hear people saying we're hearing it more and more now, like, it's not willpower, it's biology. What does that actually mean? Few different things. One, it means that there's things that are happening inside your body that is working against you as you try to go on a weight loss journey. And so it doesn't matter about your willpower, it doesn't matter how determined you are, but if your hormones or everything about your body is designed to work against you as you try losing weight, like, you cannot outsmart your body. And so understanding science is really important when we're treating like medical conditions. And that comes towards like obesity and weight loss and a lot of different chronic diseases. Like, you have to understand science. And the problem was that medicine has failed to put weight loss in a category of like, let's treat this based off of science versus like, let's treat this based off of like telling people to try harder. And now with Ozempic, it was a turning point in the world. It's revolutionary because Ozempic helped the world realize that it was never about willpower. That's what that drug did.
Well, can I challenge that just a little bit? And I've done although I have my own knowledge and just a little bit more research in terms of coming to this podcast to talk with you, is I just want to maybe be helpful to explain the differences because of GLP-1 versus GLP-2s. And Ozempic, I know really the message around Ozempic was really, it really helps with your appetite. That for those who had challenges eating too much, that if you took Ozempic at the higher doses, then it would quell that appetite, and therefore you'd eat less, and therefore you'd lose weight. And I think that's an assumption around it, nothing having to do with hormones. But if you're somebody who, and that's worked for a lot of people because they needed that help. But if you're somebody who is not an issue for you that you eat too much, in fact, maybe some people don't eat enough, and then Ozempic may not be that right solution for them. And since that time, now in the last few years, there's a number of other peptides in the GLP category that have come out that are even more so targeted towards hormonal balance. It may not necessarily affect appetite as much. There's also, I know, a lot around even microdosing in order to be able with just hormonal balance, and people using that also in general just for health purposes, even when it's not even about weight, to just reduce inflammation that causes other diseases that may be for lowering cholesterol. So I love to just hear, you mentioned it as Ozempic, but there's a lot more in the category and a lot more options. Do you deal with kind of look at the various different situations and decide which peptide is best for them?
Yeah. So GLP-1s are peptides. So I'll go back for a second. The weight loss is just like one point of what these medications do. Like they help with metabolic health. They help you live longer. I'm just going to go really quickly, like scientifically, like what it's doing, but also why are people struggling with weight? Yeah. There's biology. So people have certain genetics. There's psychology. So for example, you may eat food as a way of comfort based off of how you grew up, based off of like how your mother or your father viewed food. And that is like a pulling towards you, like that you grow up without realizing, meaning you make decisions in your life based off of things, how you grew up. So there's something there that affects your journey. The next thing is body set point. So everyone has a certain body set point, which means like your body's feeling safe at that weight. And if you try, which is an average of the past 7 years, and if you try to change your body set point naturally, your body will always fight you. Then there's like changes in our insulin as we get older. As we get older, our insulin gets more weak. And so it's harder to lose weight as your insulin is weaker. The same type of thing that happens with women as they go through perimenopause, as your estrogen and progesterone drop, your weight goes from your hips to your lower middle abdomen, and it just makes it harder. The longer you're overweight, the more insulin resistant you are, and the harder it is to lose weight. So, and the more food that you eat that are processed, the more your brain is triggered to want processed food. And so when you look at people's journey and you say, and the next thing is that fat, like the journey of like how obesity or how high cholesterol or how high sugars affect you don't happen overnight. It happens in a 10 to 15 year span. So when you look at all of these different things and you say to someone, try harder, we're not understanding all of the different things that are happening in their brain, their upbringing, the psychology, how they use food as comfort, how their bodies, like their hormones and their insulin and their estrogen and progesterone are causing a factor.
And then also you mentioned like PCOS or other, even in young girls.
Yeah.
Different hormonal
That's
imbalances.
like insulin resistant. So there are so many different things that are happening. So women after they give birth, women as they go through perimenopause, like there's things happening in your body, so you need to treat it accordingly. And I think when we look at it like that and less about like someone to try harder, it's more, there's less shame with accepting help, like medical help. So that's like why I believe people need these medications. And then what the drug is doing. So weight loss is just one thing. So I use Ozempic as just like a general term usually, but Ozempic is like a GLP-1. And we have GLP-1 plus GIP, which is like tirzepatide. So there's semaglutide, tirzepatide, and the next drug that's coming out is retatrutide, which is GLP-1 GIP plus a glucagon, which is like going to be the most revolutionary drug we've ever seen. But like,
well, let's talk about so there's Ozempic now. So let's talk a little bit about tirzepatide, and then let's talk about the.
So Ozempic to me is really great for addiction. It works really well in your brain. Most people don't talk about this, but it's like really helps like lower your desire. So you think about food, but it helps with other desires. So for example, I've put people on who have severe bulimia and they have a desire to purge, and we're able to control that desire. People have a desire to drink alcohol, people have a desire to smoke, people binge eat. Works really well for that category. Usually it's not about, sometimes it's about how many pounds they have to lose, but usually it's like about desire for me. GIPs, so GLP-1 plus GIP, which is tirzepatide, is more for people who have chronic obesity or people who have insulin sensitivity issues. So that's menopause, perimenopause, chronic obesity.
And PCOS, no?
PCOS, yeah, is we're talking about. So anyone we're talking about, like
Hormonal imbalance.
it's kind of like hormonal, exactly. Insulin is a hormone. So that is when I think about tirzepatide. So they're both helping with weight loss, but it's also, I think about what is the initial cause.
Right. So you're saying like Ozempic, whether it is like a addiction or would also maybe like
someone
eating
who's binge eating, right?
Binge eating or not like, and then it helps them to be able to clear that. But then it was things that are caused primarily by hormonal imbalance. Tirzepatide makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now talk about what's coming.
The retatrutide is the next drug, so it's not out yet. I generally don't prescribe it for patients yet just because I'm waiting for it to be like fully FDA approved. But I mean, it's like every drug that comes out is like another category. And it helps a little bit more with the insulin sensitivity and the weight loss. My biggest fear with this drug is that there's going to be so much weight loss that people are going to like lose a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
These drugs don't cause muscle loss, but it's like as you lose weight, you will lose muscle. So you have to be working out. And so the more weight you're going to lose, the more muscle is at risk. Yeah. And so we need to think about that as well. That's like, to me, the biggest thing with the next drug. Like as these drugs become so brilliant, like you also have to make sure you're doing the work with all of them, not just with this one. But it's a combination. It's like, I always say, like what these drugs do, there's like your logic, and there's your emotion. So let's say you see a cookie and you're like, you're having a stressful day and you're like, I know if I eat that cookie, it'll make me feel better. Like for a second, right? You're like, it's a dopamine, it's a desire. But logically, like, is the cookie going to make your heart rate better?
Right.
Not really, right? So there's logic and then there's an emotional pull, and usually they're together. Usually you end up doing you have an emotional comfort and you have the cookie. When you're on these GLP-1, GIP, it splits it. And that's kind of what the GLP-1's doing in the brain. So it's like delaying instant gratification.
Got it.
So you have a moment where you're like, actually, I don't really have that desire. But if it's a habit that I always have it after I eat, then you have to make a decision when you're on these medications. Do I want to change my habit? Mm-hmm. Only you could decide that.
And it also makes it, from what I understand, so like you said, you have to do the work. It may help you, but if in the long run, you've got to start really having healthy eating habits, and exercise has to become part of a routine of your life if you want to look healthy and you want to, and also so it creates that window and that opportunity to make it easier maybe than other times to start to eat healthy, craving healthier food and wanting to work. And then also, from what I understand, having a lot of protein and a lot of water, right? Like it's just you got to change your whole life.
Yeah. Because you're on like a winning streak. Think about when you're on a winning streak. Just like when you're starting to win, it helps you get on a winning streak. It helps you start winning. One, it's helping with the insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
So insulin is a big part of like why we lose weight or why we gain weight. And so if something's helping you with that, then it's going to help you get on this winning streak. As you're starting to lose weight and you're feeling better about yourself, you're making better choices, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel good about yourself. You're leaving the house more. You're having more momentum. You're winning, right? Momentum. And then the other thing it's doing is helping with the desire. It's helping with this instant gratification, this pleasure, the reward system. It's affecting this part in our brain that we use as a reward and pleasure. So it's not just making you lose weight. This drug is like literally affecting what you desire as instant gratification, which could be smoking, drinking, or like sugary foods. And then you have an ability to rewire it and change it. Like these medications, if you use it correctly in the first 4 months, you make a decision what you want, you stick to it, it helps you do it. It like rewires your brain. So cool.
So two things I want to talk about. And one is I want to talk a little bit more about hormonal imbalance because I really do. Yes, I really think that that is one of the biggest things that is from an educational perspective is and I think a lot of women don't understand that so much of where they're at is because of an hormonal imbalance. They don't even realize it. Whether even sometimes it's not when it's menopause or postpartum. It could be even young. Like I think there's a lot of young girls that and also from what I understand, a lot of times it's really helping for regulation, and girls are struggling, whether PCOS and getting pregnant and having to regulate all like this like miracle kind of work here in terms of helping like girls and women who never realized they had a hormonal imbalance until like, wait, is that? And then realizing that this could finally, there's something that could help them.
I think, so one is like more people there's more people than you realize that struggle with this. For example, like I'm a super healthy person, just did egg freezing. I have a really low AMH count. Like this is in my biology. Like I'm born with less eggs. And so I would probably hit like a perimenopause at a younger age. It's important for me to understand my biology, so I treat myself accordingly. If I would have understood it in my 20s, I would have had egg freezing earlier. And so the power of education is very important. And let's say insulin sensitivity, so like PCOS, which was now renamed. And there are a lot of people living with this that affect their fertility and their hormones. And a lot of it comes down to high insulin levels. So if your glucose is always high, your insulin's always high. So it affects a lot of different things. If you're always stressed, it will increase your cortisol, which will increase your glucose, which will increase your insulin. I always go back to insulin because insulin actually controls a lot of different things in our body. And sometimes it's like what you're eating, but sometimes it's also environmental factors like how stressed you are. Like if you live a very high stress life, it actually will affect
your cortisol hormone.
It will affect your fertility, and it will affect other things in your life. So nothing's in isolation.
Yeah.
Like there's never one thing that you could say. It's just this.
Really
So it's a combination of multiple different things. It's like the education that we need to have about like like precision care, like understanding what your body needs. Like not everyone needs the same treatments. So that's really important. And then treating people based off of that precision medicine.
And what do you think about microdosing, which is, I was listening to a number of podcasts that a lot of these doctors like that, they're like microdosing and just saying very, very, very small amounts. They're not trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
They're microdosing. It's helping them with their cholesterol. It's helping them and it's not affected by their appetite. Like it's their regular appetite. They're very fit. They're eating very healthy, but they're microdosing.
Yeah.
And they like feel like just it levels them, and they feel like it's from a health perspective preventative of other diseases.
Like you're talking about GLP-1s. Yeah. I think that my opinion, I guess, is I think everyone above 50 should be on these medications. Like it's like the baby aspirin. Like you go on this medication
in a microdose or in a.
It depends on where they are, whether they're microdosing or on a higher dose, depending on where they're at on their metabolic health. Like people need to move away from thinking these drugs are just about weight loss.
Yeah.
I promise you, you go on these medications, you live longer. They are the most revolutionary drugs. And this is backed by science.
Yeah.
This is not an opinion. The only problem that we have right now is that people associate it with shame.
Yeah.
Because it helps with weight loss. But if you forget about the weight loss for a minute, this drug has insane amount of cardiometabolic benefits. Think about the drug and think about an iceberg. Like what you see how it's like thinner on the top, but all the reasons why someone should microdose or why they should go on it is the big pillar of the strength of the iceberg. So when you go on it, you're a lot of times your cardiac labs will get better. As you lose weight, there's a lot of other things that are happening. So
but even if you're not, even for people who don't need to lose weight, they're microdosing.
Correct.
Because for the health benefits of it, for preventative.
Correct. Right? So what's happening when you go on these medications is they lower your glucose and insulin spikes.
Yeah.
And that lowers your inflammation. That's like a big part of the drug.
Inflammation is such a huge part of the processed food and the environment that we're in that have caused so much of this.
And then the insulin sensitivity. So let's say you have a lot of women who are just, as we age, our insulin gets weaker. And so we need more insulin to just do the job. And so it helps with insulin sensitivity, which is really cool. This is not even about weight loss. It's just about helping your body like just do what it needs to do. And a lot of women say they go on and their brain fog goes away. They just feel better. They feel lighter. They just, so it's like this inflammation that's happening in our body that these medications really target.
How do we take the shame away? Because I know there's a lot of people and that, it's like you go to show, like everyone's like, they're so skinny. Oh, they did Ozempic. And Ozempic, I feel like Ozempic is the association of the shame versus some of these other names. Like if you say that you take peptides, that's not associated with shame.
I know.
But if you say Ozempic, it's like, oh, you cheated. Oh, you didn't do the hard work. And I think especially the people who actually do really hard work and maybe not healthy habits of the hard work that they do, because like not eating properly is not. I was just talking to one of my daughters about this, is like the fact that we celebrate girls who, oh my gosh, she just had a baby and look how skinny she got. That is not what we should be celebrating. That is like during pregnancy, you should be as healthy as possible, eating everything you can to nourish your baby, and post, partum, you're nursing your baby. Like you're not supposed to be focused on trying to be as thin as possible. Like that's not what we celebrate that, right? So it's the same kind of concept is like, oh, and what are they? Some of those girls, they're like not eating properly through their pregnancy, and they're not eating properly afterwards, and their milk isn't strong, and all these things because there's this association, right? And then they'll look at somebody who went on Ozempic and like, wait, I like struggled and starved myself and was like, and now she just got the easy way out. And I think there's all of that, and like, how do we get rid of that? Because it's not helpful to anybody, and it's and also what's happening is those who probably could go on. Maybe it's not Ozempic, but tirzepatide or the other peptides that will help balance their hormones. They don't want to do it because they don't want to be like that. There's a shame to it. And they certainly don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, a few things I thought of. One is like truly love your body. Truly love your body. It takes care of you. It's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. Like you have to care for it and love it. Like you have to do things that are good for your body. Like your body needs muscle. Like you need to build muscle. It doesn't matter if you're not in the mood. Like your body is saying it's going to like take you till its end.
Yeah.
Like to your death. You have to love it back. Like if you got that gift of a body, then take care of it. Like you have to. That's the first thing. The second, and so it's less about like everyone's losing weight. It's like you just do what's good for your body.
Mm-hmm.
You have to love it. The second thing is education.
Yeah.
Like understanding education. Like what is the reason for these things? So there's like less shame when it comes to understanding, when I gained weight due to like hormones changing or insulin changing. And a good example of that is like most people don't think about shame when they think about HRT. So when we put women on estrogen and progesterone, we don't think shame. Why? Because we see it as a natural progression of life. And there's no shame to it. So there's no shame to things that we understand that happen in our biology. So once you understand that these medications are targeting changes that are happening in your biology, just like HRT is.
So on the GLPs, first of all, could you talk about is this something that people stay on forever, or is it something that they can reset their hormones, or they get to a certain weight, or and then second follow-up to that is, I think people are really scared sometimes of the side effects. There was like a lot of articles, especially I think specifically around Ozempic. I know I read like tirzepatide is definitely very different. And then even this new drug that's coming supposed to even be better. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about both of those?
Sure. Okay. First question. So do people need to stay on these medications forever? Some people do, some people don't. Usually if you have situational weight gain. So for example, you gained weight due to a breakup, you gained weight due to a move, due to a certain lifestyle thing that like went to college and you gained like 30 pounds. It is really likely that you could go on these medications, change your habits, rewire your brain and go off of it. Gave birth. You could just use it to just change your habits. There are some people that have chronic obesity that is much more difficult for those people to go off of it. So it really depends on the person of like, what is the core reason of why this person gained the weight? That will determine if you'll be able to go off it. The second thing that's going to determine is also what are the changes you're doing while you're going on it. So people who go on these medications, you will lose weight. It's not a question. But are you doing other things? Like, are you changing your habits? So for example, there was a great study of people that went on it. Both cases, one group worked out, did lifestyle modifications, the other group didn't. Both groups lost the same amount of weight. When they both went off the medication, the group that did lifestyle modifications were able to maintain their weight at a much higher level than the other group. And that comes to show that the lifestyle modification is helpful for maintaining weight.
Got it.
So that is like the answer. It's a combination of those things.
The issue is like just a hormonal balance. Like, is there something where you could just reset the hormones, and once sometimes the brain just kind of triggers, because really what the peptides in general, but certainly the GLPs is, it's really what it is it's just signaling your brain to produce more of something, right? Like that's what the medication is. So if you're being signaled to produce more or less, whatever, to balance you out, then once the brain kind of been doing that for like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, are there times where, okay, now it's trained, the brain's trained, so even when you go off it, it should keep those hormones balanced, and or at least maybe for a certain amount of time until you might have to go on it again. What are your thoughts?
Great question. It really depends on, it depends on a couple of different things. So chronic obesity, if you lived with chronic obesity for like 20 years of your life, you're just looking at being on these medications a lot longer. If you had a situational thing, you're looking on bringing these medications for shorter if you had the lifestyle modification adjustments on it. And then there are certain things that you change your body set point. So remember we spoke about body set point. So if you change your body set point with these medications and then you stay on it for, let's say, a year, and your body recognizes that that's your new weight, that it's safe, doesn't feel like it's starving anymore, then you're likely, you can go off the medication to keep the weight off. So it's also about staying on these drugs long enough, sometimes for your body to recognize that it's shifted its new body set point and this is your new normal. So it's really never going to be the same answer for one person, but it's really based off of like metabolic health, how long you've been struggling for weight, what's the core reason of why you struggle with the weight. And there are some people that we shift their body set point, or we improve their insulin sensitivity with these medications, and they also started building more muscle because muscle will make a difference in insulin sensitivity. And they're maybe able to go off these medications. In general, I think microdosing on them forever is a really great option for living longer.
What about women that are at the phase of fertility that they're looking to get pregnant or they're nursing? What about is that something you would recommend at that point, or they should go
So it's not recommended if you're looking to get pregnant, yeah.
How long do you have to wait from the time that you would go off of those until like you would want to get pregnant?
They say 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, let me answer side effects.
Yeah, side effects.
Okay. Most of the side effects that people will experience on these medications is usually user dependent. So if you don't take these medications correctly, you will get side effects. If you eat foods that are high in sugar, high fat, high in oil, you will feel nauseous. If you take these medications on high doses without supervision, and you have rapid weight loss and you don't work out, you will have muscle loss. If you don't work out and protect your bones, like you will have a problem with your bones. And so if you don't use these medications correctly, you will have side effects. If you use these medications correctly, you will live longer and be stronger. It's simple. These drugs do not have side effects outside of the person using it. Like you need to use it correctly.
So when you're reading these stories about people who just, whatever happened, sometimes it's that they just took somebody else's like highest dose and injected themselves versus like they worked with the doctor or a nurse practitioner and they said, okay, you start on the low dose and then you slowly build it up and we watch it. Like is that often why? Or it just could be a unique situation where someone reacted negatively to it.
It's very rare for someone to have a reaction to these medications that it was not associated to something that they could have done differently.
I think someone said something, was talking about it not long ago, and they said, oh my gosh, you never know, like they're going to find out in 10 years that these drugs cause cancer. And it was interesting because I just read an article in the Wall Street Journal that they did a study and that those that were on, I think it was tirzepatide, it was Ozempic. Those that were on, Ozempic, they actually reduced the spread of the cancer cells.
Well, one, that's really great. One, it's been around since 2005, so we're not finding any yet. Like it's been around like for a while. Byetta, Saxenda, we've been using it for a while.
We're 21 years in.
Yeah, and so the other thing is that, as I said, like these medications increase metabolic health, and what I mean by that is they decrease pretty much every chance of you getting any disease that is associated with high sugar and high inflammation, which is like diabetes, cancer, any sort of inflammatory.
Alzheimer's is associated now with inflammation.
Correct. And so like it is so cool what these medications do. I think the problem is that people are associating it just with weight loss versus associating it with a longevity drug.
Yeah. So let's bring this back to your company now. And for how long ago did you launch it? I think
4 years.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And where is it at today? And where are you seeing it? What are you doing? Like, where's the growth? Tell me a little bit about how you work within the company and like everything about it.
Yeah. So we're just like a GLP-1 focused company. I think I told you I'm like publishing a book on it in the next 2 months, helping people understand like debunking the weight loss myths and understanding like how to use medications correctly. And now we're just shifting more to just overall helping people live longer and healthier and better.
Because that is also a difference when you say like, oh, I'm all about weight loss or I'm all about being healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Those are, shifting about because if you're healthy, you're going to be at the exact weight you're supposed to be.
Yeah. I started off because I couldn't lose the weight. But as I went on the medication, I realized that this drug optimizes people's health. And then I just became obsessed with it because I realized, 1 second, there's a drug that can make us live longer and everyone's not on it. I need to get everyone on this drug. And I don't know why it's my sole mission. And I don't own any stocks in the company. Well, actually I do in the S&P 500, but like I'm not like really an investor. And so I'm just obsessed with helping people live longer. I don't know why. I'm obsessed with it. And so I realized like this is like a gateway to helping people live longer. So our focus over the next couple of years is becoming the best platform in the world to help people learn how to take GLP-1s plus HRT plus peptides to help them live longer and stronger.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. And what's the model right now? Is it that they call, like, is it a clinic? Is it telecalls? How does it work?
Telehealth. So right now we're in about 22 states. We're going to be in 50 states. And you get assigned to a nurse practitioner, and she stays with you throughout your entire journey. And she looks at you as a holistic level and say, how can we make you live longer and live healthier? And so it's not always like one targeted solution. It's figuring out what's the holistic picture. And our clients are committed. Like, it's a committed program. You have to be committed to loving your body and, you know, be on this journey. So it's really cool. I love it. Yeah, I'm really excited.
All right. Well, that was super. That was kind of our educational piece. And now I want to talk about you.
Okay.
Because you have a really interesting story and a really inspirational story. And I think understanding this journey that you've taken and the 2 businesses that you've built. But I know you shared you grew up in Monsey, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us, and you went to Beis Yaakov.
Yes.
So talk to us just a little bit about how you grew up, a little bit about your family.
Okay. I grew up in Monsey. I have 7 siblings. I'm super close to my family. I love all of my sisters and my one brother. Very close to my parents. And I had a pretty good childhood. I would say it was like, I don't know, good times, very good community. Community is underrated. Yeah, big time. So,
And then you went to seminary, right?
then I went to seminary, and then I went to college right after that.
Did you always know you wanted to go into medicine?
Think so, yeah. The other option for me was like a biomedical engineer. At that point in my life, it was like there was like one school in the middle of nowhere, and it was like too strange for me. So I was like, oh, I can stay in New York. So stayed in New York.
One of the things that I know you are very public about, which is I think also a really good conversation to be able to have, is just sort of your dating journey.
Yeah.
And I know you shared you're 36, and you just, froze your eggs. I know you have a little bit on social media about sort of finding a husband in this journey. So especially coming from a Monsey community and, being in the community, and just, talk to us a little bit about, you and I had some really great conversations about everybody has their challenges, and just sort of this journey for you in terms of, because also there's, a lot of women that are also struggling with, finding their husbands, not having children, and like what that's like. And I'd love to hear a little bit from you on that.
Okay, so the first thing is, one of my truest desires underneath all of this is, as I'm looking for a husband and putting it out there, I hope for everyone that they ask what they want in this life. That's what is for me. It's about I hope to inspire and encourage everyone. Just ask what you want out of life. Have the courage to ask for it. So you don't have to put it on your platform. I do it as a way of inspiration. It's fun and I enjoy these things, but whatever it is, if you want a certain job, if you want a husband, if you want I don't know, a different path in life, just ask the universe for it and you will get it. So it's more about just being straightforward and not hiding desires that we want. That's really the core of what this is. And yeah, we all go through challenges, and I do believe, and I study Kabbalah, and it's helped me realize this, that every single challenge we go through in life, just look at it as you go through this. The reason why I went through any of my challenges in life was because I meant to make the world a better place. I meant to go through this so I could figure out how to fix it and then help other people through it. And even if it's just through an inspiring story or just everyone that I meet, I don't have to open up a company with every single challenge I go through, but we're meant to go through challenges to make us better people. I don't think we should look at the world as why did I go through these challenges? Yes, go through challenges so you could morph into a stronger human being, and enjoy the process and inspire other people through it. Life.
When you're going through something really hard that's so painful, how do you enjoy the process through that?
I I look at it as like there's a reason why I'm going through it. Like I'm meant to go through this to be, like I always look at it for my good. Like I'm meant to go through this because like I believe that I'm meant to go through this like journey of finding a husband, one, because I'm going to find an amazing person, but also like the person who I'm becoming through it. Like the person that I've become through this journey of all of like my heartbreaks and this struggle of finding the right person. Like I've become this person that is so comfortable, and I continue to morph through this process of like comfortable with being me and like standing up for myself and telling the world what I want and like saying no to the things that are less than what I want. And like I had to go through what I went through to get there. And so I would never give it up because I would never give up who I became, because that's more valuable to me.
I think sometimes it's easier after you've gone through it to say, okay, you know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But when you're in it and when that pain is so sharp, is there anything you do? Yes, you could tell yourself, I know it'll be okay. But when you're feeling that, I mean, you're feeling that, I'm sure, like you just went through this process of freezing your eggs. Like, and I know you've shared with, it's very painful that you don't have your children yet. Yeah. And like, but I'm sure, or a heartbreak, like you said, and you thought this maybe was going to be the one you were going to marry. And then he's not. Like in that right moment, like, is there like okay, and you just need to feel like, you know, sometimes for me, I'll just be like, okay, I need to like feel, I need to know, like, and go through that because it's really important to like feel all those emotions and pain. And like, right, it's like this idea of holding two things at once. Yeah. It's like, and also I know that it'll be okay. And in the long term, I'll look back and know that I grew from it, or, you know, it was what's meant to be. But in that moment, it is like, it's pretty hard.
So one thing, like as I went through this journey of the egg freezing, I kept going to the doctor and kept hoping that every single time I went, they'd tell me I have more like eggs. And every single time I cried because I never got the answer that I wanted. And I was so angry. Like, why am I not having the amount of eggs that I want? And I realized that I was like fighting life. Like, but this was my reality. And so there's a certain point where you come to surrender. And it doesn't mean giving up. It means just like surrendering. And then I was like, okay, it means I have to do it 3 times. And once I understood that, then I was fine. Like I'm fine. I have to do another round. Like I'm fine with it because I understood that I surrendered to what's up.
Your reality.
Yeah, my reality. And then deciding how I want to move forward. Versus if I would have just kept fighting, I would have cried the entire process of the egg freezing because I would have been like, but I want more. And so I think there's like a thing of just surrendering to life. And I don't mean that as giving up. I mean it as just like accepting the process of like what the cards that you have and learning how you want to move forward.
It's kind of like what I'm hearing is, and I agree with you, and I say this a lot, and sometimes my kids will just be like, all I just want is your validation. I don't want your solutions. But I think there's a lot, you know, it's like, yes, the energy that you put into being upset or hurt about something you can't change. Like, exactly. It's like, okay, just this is where it is. So let's take all of the energy and not like spin around an option that doesn't exist. Right.
Let's not look back.
But like, and let's put that energy into how we move forward, or what is an option, and like, let's think about that and put that energy there and like move it forward.
Yeah.
I think that is a great skill, but I also realize, even for myself, is that like, it's also important to allow yourself to feel disappointed and upset and hurt about whatever the cards are that you were dealt. Yeah. But like, let yourself feel it for a certain amount of time, and then you gotta like move on.
Yeah,
you know,
cry about
it. Right?
I love crying. Yep. I love crying. I love crying. It's so cool. You get to like, it's like you just cry. You feel better.
People feel shame in crying.
I love crying. I just heard a woman one time told me a really cool quote, and she said, "I gave up on guilt. Like, give up on guilt. Give up on shame. Give up on those things. Live boldly. We only get to live once. Like, so like." Just cry it out and move forward. Just move forward
on what your reality is, and put the energy towards being able to. You said something to me when we were talking, which I really loved, and you said something like, you think about it as like butterfly, caterpillar, butterfly, caterpillar.
Oh yeah. So that's another thing. Advice. Like whenever I go through a painful situation, and like we all go through painful situations. Like everyone's life is hard. Like everyone has a hard life, and you just learn through it anyway. So I have this image in my head, like when I'm going through something painful, I think of myself as this, like think of a caterpillar and then it's like morphing into a butterfly. And like, it's painful. It must be painful. I mean, I don't know, but I think so. And so I just try, like whenever I'm comforting my friends, I always just say, like, imagine yourself being a caterpillar right now, morphing into a butterfly. Like, I know it's painful, but like, this is the process that we go through to live a like exceptional life and a better life. So just, that's like, again, maybe something to think about as you're going through a hard situation. And the other thing is like, never think, why is this happening to me? Like, don't be a victim. Do not be a victim. Just think about all the different things that you could learn through the process of growing from a painful situation and how you're going to morph into the person that you need to be through this. Like, there's a reason why you're going through it and you're going to grow from it. So it's always better to look at painful situations like that than to look in the past and say, why me? Because that just doesn't help.
I love it. I think this is so inspirational. And I think that there is a lot of pain, for everybody has. And also I think too is, I think often, and I talk about this a lot on this podcast, is that I think a lot of times people look at another person and we're very naturally comparative, right? Mm-hmm. So it's first of all, whether it's, wow, they have it all together, they have everything, they got married, they have kids, they have their, everything all, but everybody has their challenges. Everyone has their own package, and you never get to just take pieces of it. It's like, and nobody would ever, when they understand it, trade theirs for someone else's. So I think that what's really important is that, for number one, is that when you look at everyone, no one has everything perfect, and everyone has something that they're dealing with, and you'll always take your own package over someone else's.
Yeah.
The second thing is comparisons. And this goes back, whether it's weight, whether it's anything else, whether it's don't compare yourself to anybody else except for what your best version of yourself is. I actually think I have this, it's not a magnet, but it's like this little, like small little silver, like medallion of some sort. I don't know what exactly, but I put it in when my daughter was a teenager, and I put it in her bathroom under the mirror. And I think it's still sitting there now. And I don't remember the exact quote, but it's something of like, the only one to compare to is the one that's staring back to you in the mirror.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, what's the best version of you? And the only thing to compare is you.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. I feel like it's worse even than when I remember like I wasn't a teenager. I mean, I was. My kids would be like, what are you talking about? To me, it doesn't feel like that long, But it was like, from a timing perspective, like there was still social pressure. There was still, people who were like so worried what everybody else thought about them. And certainly I think it's even 10 times worse with social media and everything else is like such a focus. Like, and we just talk about stop living for everybody else. Like you said, your life is so short.
Who cares? Like, nobody's thinking about you.
Like, I just like want to yell it at like so loud.
Yeah.
And I know for like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 8-year-olds, that's so hard to hear. But like once you're like 20, 21, 22, like, don't waste your life living for everybody else, worrying what other people think about you. Like, live your life for, like, it's short. Like, live your life for you.
Yeah.
Like, and just, it's so freeing if you could free yourself from worrying what everyone else thinks of you and just be your best version of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish I had like more of a piece of advice to how people could get there. And I actually don't know, but I think there's like one piece of advice I would say is like, learn to take certain, like give yourself certain small goals that you can do and get there. Even if it's like run a half a marathon. It's like do something to show yourself that you can do this, like just a goal against yourself. And that can help build confidence.
The other thing I would say is I really think it has a lot to do with how you grow up and the parents that you're around. Yeah. So if and this is maybe reflective, the people you're around. If this is reflective, I think, especially for parents to think about, is if you are constantly, the message that you're sending your children is, oh, what do the neighbors think? Or don't do this because of other people, or even in yourself, they see it in your own behavior. Yeah. They're going to pick that up. But if you grew up with parents who are very much like, we do what's best for us, and they're confident in their decisions and what they do, then, maybe there's a maturity phase for you to be able to get there, but you're way more likely to do that. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I feel so fortunate because my parents were definitely never would even a second think about like what other people thought. Like there was like a very high standard that they had for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what mattered. And I never could say, but she has it. But I wouldn't even try because that would never flew in my house. And I think my kids probably know that too. Like, I don't really care that other people have or what other people's parents say. Like, we do what's good for us.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
If you want your kids to have confidence and also for friends, like if you're around your friends, like if they start saying no, who cares what other people think? Be you.
Be around be around people that inspire you. If people don't inspire you, just like if people don't make you a better version of you, like I am friendly with everybody, but like my close friends are just like, they're superhumans. I mean, all of my close friends are like they make the world a better place. Or they're shifting this world and they inspire me. And they also tell things to me straight to my face, like think bigger. Like they will criticize me in good ways to push me to be the best version of me. And those are the only people that I really want to like spend my like time with like closely.
Yeah.
And so if you go to an event and you don't feel good after it, or the people you're around don't inspire you, like don't be around that person. Like your time is too valuable. People need to value their time more, I think. And so, especially women, especially our fertile years, I have a whole theory on that.
Yeah,
but it's like, be around people who inspire you, and that will like change and morph who you are. It really actually makes a difference. It really does, because your thoughts, when people talk to you, it changes your thoughts. And so, like, be around the people that if you want to think like them. But if you're around a lot of negative people, like,
you're not going to be able to do much.
Yeah. Like, if you notice that all your friends are always complaining, oh my God.
Friend. Or if they're insulting you, or you're not feeling good after you spend time with them. Like, one of my daughters, like, who sources you, right? Like, who do you walk away, like, feeling sourced? Like, or whether it's people, whether it's activities, what gives you that energy? And that's what, like, really tells you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So what's, like, if I'm sure you have your, just like getting to know you a little bit, like, you know, kind of in your mind, whether it's a real vision board or if it's like, I feel like you're a type that has like big goals and you know where you want to go. So share with us, like, what does it look like in 10 years from now for you?
I want to sell both of my businesses in the next 10 years. I'm excited to like grow like a really cool team and do really cool things with my team. Like for me, it's about the people that I'm building the business with. So I'm like really excited to build with the people that I currently have, but also meet really awesome people along the way and change many lives. Not necessarily like two different ways. One, the people that I'm working with, but also like obviously the lives that we touch, the people that we help live longer. I want to make an impact in the world in metabolic health. So I want to help people live longer and stronger. So lifespan and health span. Have a family and, you know, husband and kids. I will have kids regardless, whether I find a husband or not. But really just like having a meaningful life, like being happy about the journey regardless, and making a difference in people's lives. Like that's just,
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you are really inspirational, and I mean, just so many pieces to all parts of your life. And I have no doubt, like, you're going to achieve everything that you put your mind to. Like, you are, I can tell, you've got the energy, you've got the grit. Also like the appreciation and understanding that when you don't necessarily get everything you want, that it's also, you're still getting it because that's what's meant to be. So that's like, I think for people that are very, very passionate and very, very motivated and very ambitious, they get impatient when they don't necessarily get everything they want when they want it. And I could appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have a balance to appreciating that even when you're not, if something's not getting where you want it, it's because that's what's supposed to be for you, and it's part of the journey, and ultimately it'll work out. And that's amazing, that balance. And that probably is why you have been able to be so successful.
Well, I'm not perfect at it. I will tell you, like, I do also, like,
everybody
journey.
continues to work at it, but it starts with just a mindset, and then you practice, right? It's all about, like, muscle, right? You have
it's a muscle.
Building the muscle to keep practicing it.
Yeah.
And even then, it's still hard. It's not that it's not hard. It's never not going to be hard.
Yeah. And I do want to add something, because it's like JW, like what they do, like how important it is. Like one of the reasons is like who you surround, what we were talking about before, like who you surround yourself with. Like be around people who inspire you. And that's like really what they were doing. So it's, it's awesome.
And why I think we love to do this podcast, because we want to showcase, inspire. I think when you hear stories about other people that their stories inspire you and you can learn something. So it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay, fast 5.
Okay.
All right. What's your superpower?
Being able to work a room faster than anyone else. I can make friends with someone under like 30 seconds.
That is a great superpower. And I've never heard anyone say that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I could work a room faster than anyone you've ever met in your life.
Wow. Okay. I was supposed to go to the event with you last night. Watch you do that, and I did it. So I'm coming with you to the next event.
Okay.
And I'm going to watch you do that, because that would not be my superpower.
Yeah. I'm a great wing woman.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do that together. What was the best piece of advice you ever got?
I think for right now, the biggest piece of advice that I recently got was to live life more boldly. And that's something that's resonating with me. I want to live a very bold life. Yeah.
Amazing.
And I rather fail. I rather fail so many more times than be afraid of trying.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay. What was the most difficult thing that you went through in this journey?
In my life? I would say just heartbreaks, my divorce, and just heartbreaks of relationships, of people that I cared about and loved. Those were very transformative for me, and they helped me become who I am today. They helped me become a stronger version of me, and to say, next time I want better for myself. Yeah.
And what do you see as your purpose?
I think on one level is to help with the world, with metabolic health, helping people live longer. But ultimately, I hope to inspire people. I want to inspire people to go after everything they want in life.
And last is just an opportunity for you to leave whatever message, last words to the audience.
So if people just want to get healthier, my advice for them is build muscle. Optimize your body's hormones. So learn where you are in your life and what are the things that are changing and how you need to optimize that, whether it's insulin sensitivity or HRT. Walk in the morning for at least 20 minutes, expose your eyes to sunlight, hydrate in the morning, super important. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, so important for healing, for hormones, for your overall health. And go on a GLP-1. That's my health advice. And my just general advice, I would say, is I think momentum over stagnation. So think less about what you want to do, just pick something and do it, and then just learn from it. And I think it's important to live life with curiosity, be less judgmental, and just be curious. So let's say for someone who's just trying to meet more people, when you meet someone, it's whether you feel like you need them for anything, or maybe they're not your husband or wife, it doesn't matter. Just try to be more curious about people when you meet people. And I think that will help you learn more. And if you learn more every day, then I think you live a better life. So, happy people attract happy people. So be as grateful as possible for all the things that you have, and the world will just give back to you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
This episode was made possible by our friends at Roth & Co. We are grateful for their continued partnership. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that you'll join us for the next one. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch this conversation on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe, and share. Until we meet again, stay inspired to lead.